Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mind Split Cafe. Matt, how's it going today?
I'm doing great, man. It's a great Friday. I cannot complain. Everything is solid on my end. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm any day that I wake up, I'm pretty content with life. Everything else can be figured out.
Yep.
And today we actually have a familiar face, Miss Kim. Hey, Miss Kim, how are you?
Howdy, I'm good. How
Hey,
are you?
Kim. Kim, I call you Killer Book Kim.
I
That's what I call you.
that exactly. I got mine right here.
Killer Color Book Kim. Welcome back to
Yes.
the show.
Yes. Thank you for coming back. And I'm glad you brought the coloring book because last time you were on our show, we discussed a coloring book for serial killer coloring book. So I'm
Yeah,
glad you
Yeah.
brought that.
I love coloring books, period. I love to do them, and a lot of my friends know that I do. And one of my girlfriends gave me the sweetest one, which was tea. So it was like cups of tea with wisdom and tips on staying calm. And I'm gonna get to that one, but I gotta get to this other one. I gotta get to the serial killer one first.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course. Now the
it's a
question I
priority.
have, this is just purely curiosity. Obviously you go through a great deal of the color red, right? Um, but
Well,
do
I
you
don't like rules. So,
oh,
blood can be in multiple of different colors for me.
that's what I was getting to was do you color the blood blue since it's inside the body it is blue? Or do you just go stereotypically red?
Okay, so in the serial killer coloring books, they're not actually showing the murder scenes, although
Oh,
they do have weapons around them. They're usually just pictures of the serial killers, and sometimes they don't even look like the actual serial killer. They look kind of like some of them have a vague familiarity of like one of the celebrities, for example,
okay.
or they just strangely, vaguely sometimes.
Man,
I guess it depends on who's drawing it.
I mean,
And then
yeah,
I enjoy the ones where they also have little tidbits of facts about them,
little
like
nuggets of
little
information,
nuggets of
right?
information,
Yeah.
including their last meal. Those are awesome.
So if you
Very
could find a
interested
killer
in last
coloring
meals.
book that has got a serial killer that resembles Brad Pitt and gives nuggets of information, that's
Yeah,
probably the
I
best one, right?
it's probably this one that I'm using right now. Little nuggets of information of a guy who should not be looking like Brad Pitt, but kind of sort of does, like Brad Pitt's wish
Yeah, wish
cousin.
version of Brad Pitt.
Oh my gosh, this is gonna be a fantastic episode. I can
Oh, I
already tell.
know.
I mean, we're here to talk about the brain, and look how our brains just kind of rattle on about killer coloring books, and
Well, what do you
Well,
think happened to
actually,
our brain when that happened? I mean, I'm pretty sure it just shot up all of these happy hormones.
yeah.
well, I kind of feel like it kind of ties into what we're going to talk about today. The having the coloring book at least kind of tying into what we're going to be talking about, so it kind of plays a part in it.
Of course, because it's still like an art form. We're going to be talking about art, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love art.
Let's get started on that, Kim. Why don't we give us a little rundown of what we're going to be talking about, and let's get the domino falling or the ball rolling, one of the two.
Well, one of the things that I do is run the expressive arts program on our campus, and I somehow found myself in this particular job, but I love it because as a counselor, I've long integrated the use of arts with mental health care, so I see its benefits. I can see that it can help folks in a variety of ways, particularly if they can't verbalize what they're saying, they're having a hard time verbalizing it, or if they're getting stuck, or I want to try to get more perspective that words by themselves are just not coming out. Um, so we talk with, well, I talk about how various different art forms could be helpful for improving various mental health outcomes and sometimes physical outcomes too, because we really see that various art forms does change the brain.
And I want to ask a quick question just to to go with what you're saying. Now, are we talking about child and adolescent, adults, or both when it comes to this type of
Every,
therapy?
oh my gosh,
Okay.
every, there's actually quite a lot of research as well about those who in the older population, and especially with neurocognitive, neurodegenerative decline, like those with dementia, for example, or Parkinson's disease. So quite a few stuff on that, particularly with music and exercise and dance. But also with children, there's um, my brain's popping into in my brain a research article that I had seen that showed how kids who were engaging in visual arts, who were in the hospital, who have cancer, that their self-esteem jumped up higher and in comparison from those kids who did not have this visual art activity that was being done. So in a controlled study with two different populations of children who have cancer, who are in the hospital, we really see much higher self-esteem than those who did not have that. So in just anything, just raising the quality of life for people in a variety of different places in their lifespan and with different issues, I mean, it's something worth looking into. So, people usually sometimes think, well, it's just art.
Yeah.
You're playing music, you're drawing, or even coloring. What the hell? Like come on. Nobody's going to go to a counselor and just pay money just to do arts and crafts.
Draw
Like
or
that's it. It's
doodle.
just arts and crafts. Just doodle.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
not about that. There's and there's evidence that shows that it's effective. Also, historically, like throughout various cultures, throughout history, we've seen the arts being integrated into mental health care, from ancient China, the ancient Greeks, even the Greek god Apollo, he amongst multiple different things that he was a god for was medicine and music. He carried a lyre,
It
Interesting. I
basically
didn't know
cured the
that.
soul, huh?
here's the soul.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So, in your opinion, why do you think this is so effective? Why do you think art and music and getting creative is so effective with combating mental health illnesses?
Well, the thing is that, our lives does affect our brains in some degrees. Like we see that with kids who have been traumatized. And I guess this is going to be a very long roundabout answer. But we see that with kids who have been traumatized. We see it for ourselves that our experience kind of hardwires things and reactions into our brain. And with some children or whomever, anybody, an adult as well, who've experienced multiple traumas, just as an example of these multiple experiences, certain parts of the brain might shrink, certain parts of the brain gets more activated, and they kind of stay that way. And certain thoughts tend to get hardwired, and also how we see the world tends to get hardwired. Like we might be less trusting, or
Yeah.
we might have memory problems. We might have more difficulty concentrating. We might have more difficulty calming ourselves just because that's kind of the way we ended up wired in the world. Except our brain is also very, very plastic. It's changeable to
Valuable.
a fair degree and malleable. Yeah, like um, we can work on some of those things. What we find and what's interesting, and we really don't, I should say, know a whole lot about the brain. We probably know more about the dark side of the moon than our actual brain. But what we see is that various art forms utilize multiple portions of our brain, and they activate it and they're stimulating it. And this stimulation, I think helps our brain heal. It helps us um, do things like that sometimes we can't otherwise.
Yeah.
So some examples, like we've seen those with Parkinson's disease and other like neuromuscular degenerative diseases where they're having difficulty just moving, just
Mhm.
walking. even
Yeah.
with their motor function, their gross motor function, and having difficulty with it. You put on some music and you try to get them to move or to dance, and suddenly they're able to move in a way that they can't if it's just basic walking or
Wow.
basic movements. Like we're seeing a lot more of that. You have those who you might see examples on TikTok or YouTube where they're struggling to talk. People are
Mhm.
having difficulty finding words or they're stuttering. They have a stuttering issue. Yet when they're singing, so different. And
No, no issue at all.
no issues, no issues. And sometimes even just having a song play, like we know that. Like, how did we learn our ABCs? We learned
Just
it
to
through a
share the
song.
song. Yeah.
I have a, I have a, what's interesting is I have a friend that, he has a stuttering issue, and he's a grown man now, but as a kid he had a, an issue, still kind of does a little bit, but when he was playing sports and he was communicating to his teammates
Hmm.
while he
No
was
stutter.
actively playing that sport in the game,
No
no stutter.
problem. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
interesting.
art really does activate all portions of the mind and multiple portions of the mind. Like you're using both hemispheres. So you're
Mhm.
basically using your whole brain and multiple portions are getting activated. I've even seen some research that's looking at why that is. Like, is music, especially for those with dementia or damaged portions of the brain, and they're not able
Mhm.
to do certain things, that sometimes playing music, even just passively listening to the music, we wonder if the music is able to help the individual bypass a certain portion,
Yeah.
the damaged portion of the brain, in order for them to be able to function. It's just really cool, interesting stuff that we're trying to figure out. And but we are seeing some of this evidence. I'm particularly excited with the evidence for those with dementia. I mean, it's personally meaning for me to see how even just listening to music, especially personalized playlists where it's music from their youth or music that they really, really, really like, and how
Yeah.
that might affect them even beyond just enjoying their quality of life, how it may help them um, improve other sorts of
Motor
outcomes,
functions, just
motor
anything.
fun anything, maybe
That's
being able to communicate a little bit more. Um, but like I said, it's just kind of cool to see that stuff that we sort of take for granted, that we engage in as an arts and craft, that most people don't think is, that meaningful or is dismissive, could actually really, really help people.
Yeah.
Um, Especially they
Yeah.
come into counseling, they don't want to talk to us, and or they're struggling with talking to us. Maybe it's a child, maybe it's somebody with a language, maybe it's just really hard to talk to us. And we can see that just building a connection by working on a project together can be quite interesting
I
to.
could Yeah, I could see how that could be a catalyst to forming a bond or a relationship. I mean, you guys gotta have to work together as a team to work on a project. So now this person is trusting you a little bit more, and I, that's
And
smart.
they may not know what I'm actually doing either.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I
That's why you
it's
get paid the big bucks,
it's
because,
yeah. That's right.
it's covert.
well, the way I see it too is that it's not the final product that's important to me. It's the whole process of doing it. And sometimes I'm watching how they're doing it
Yeah.
and getting cues from that. Like, how do they handle their frustrations? Are they able to let it go? Like, how do they come up with this idea of what to create?
Hmm.
So, and if it's a family working together, who's taking the lead? Like, is anybody ignoring the wishes of others? Are they working on this piece separately, or is it all a team?
Yeah.
So it's
Oh,
kind of
there's a lot of information
fun.
you can peel away from just that little scenario right there.
For sure. And then I could also look at the product too and see, if I ask you to draw a tree, how thick is the trunk? Did you have any eggs in there? Are there any predators in this tree? Like what's going on with this? Where are your roots?
Oh my
That's
gosh.
interesting.
Killer Coloring Book Kim is like an onion. Like she
Just
is
keep peeling,
she
just
just
keep peeling
keeps you
back.
just keep peeling back. I mean, there's so many layers to this. Like it's unreal.
So
And
I want to play the devil's advocate real quick, and I first off just want to say that like the brain is extremely powerful, and this was kind of the reason this questioning is coming. Is just the brain's powerful, and it's my favorite thing to study, to read about. I love neuroplasticity. I think that's just phenomenal that our brain can do things like that. But having the brain being as powerful as it is, so we have talked about music and arts and crafts being an effective tool to help the brain.
mhm,
So, in your thought, can it be, and this is devil's advocate playing, can it be counterintuitive to helping? So, like, and I'll give you
sure.
a scenario. So, when I went through my mental health breakdown issue, you know, for a couple years when my dad had passed away, there was certain songs that I would listen to, or certain songs that I remember that were being played when I was going through this mental health struggle. And now when I hear these songs just randomly, it like pulls me back into that
It
mind frame that
triggers.
I was in, or it kind of pulls me back there. So it can kind of be a counterintuitive as well, correct?
Absolutely. You know what you speak of really is just how the brain captures information, how it captures stimuli and stores away memories, especially those memories that arise when we are traumatized. You know, we go through a very, very rough patch. So, you know, aren't there certain smells and sounds or textures, something that just reminds you of something wonderful? Like the
Yeah.
smell of waffles reminds me of my dad cooking waffles on Sunday. I didn't appreciate it back then, but I
Yeah.
kind of do appreciate it
Yeah.
now. You
I,
know,
I think
it's
I think like fresh cut grass and the smell of rain takes me back to my childhood, right?
okay. Fresh cut grass, yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that. The rain, no, because it reminds me of like up in Germany when I where I lived out there when the rain came, so did the earthworms, and it was just like
Oh,
the
Oh,
so
two
it's tied
scents
to a
together.
negative memory.
sorry.
But yeah, thanks a lot, Matt. But but Chris, the music, right?
Mhm.
I There are songs that we listen to
Yep.
that just bring us joy, and I will ask folks like, tell me your power song, like bring that in, let's play that. There are other songs that just depress us. Like we're sad, we're lonely,
Yep.
we're feeling
Anything
awful,
by
we're going through a
Morrissey.
breakdown.
Yep.
Oh my God, I was thinking of Morrissey. Yes, love Morrissey. Love Morrissey. My favorite
He is
song, Ouija
so
board, Ouija board.
tortured. He is so tortured. He's a tortured
Bless
soul.
his heart. Yeah, and he can't even seem to like play all of his concerts. It just keeps happening.
Nope.
Couldn't get through
No,
it. I'd
no.
wanna, yeah, I'd be like, oh my god, my life is horrible.
I I want to
I gotta
analyze
listen
him,
to
but
Mind
that's
Split
wrong.
Cafe to have non-intrusive thoughts, right? And so
Oh, geez.
Or
yeah,
talk about how we can have other intrusive thoughts for sure.
yeah,
But some sounds will bring back memories that are not pleasant, just like some sounds will bring back songs that are okay. Like
yeah.
it's just sort of how it goes. Maybe you have your song, but it happened to be with an ex. Like why the hell would you want to listen to that
Yeah.
Yeah.
ever again?
Yeah.
At least for a very, very long time. Like
Yeah.
that is no longer my song. That is no
Yeah.
longer like the memories just start pouring in.
Yeah.
And it could be, you know, anything like that. Mm,
What is your song,
Art,
Killer Color Book Kim?
No, we did this with her one
I
time,
know,
remember?
but if they didn't hear the episode from last
Oh,
time,
yeah, that's true. My
that is
bad.
what is your power song?
I was gonna make you
mm,
guess, Matt, by the way. That's why I was telling you to
No,
wait. I was gonna make you guess.
no. I know that was
uh
so many moons ago. Yeah, what is your power song, Kim?
what I'm going to say is if you watched that episode last time, you asked me what my guilty pleasure song
Yeah.
was, and I'm very embarrassed to say what it actually is. And that is not my power song. That is my guilty song. And that was
Okay.
and remember how I said I was really afraid that the Swifties were going to get after me? It was karma.
Yep.
And she does not know what karma means. It's driving me crazy. But I enjoy the song. It's very catchy, so I listen to it. But I do have various songs that I might listen to, and sometimes there might be songs I'm going to listen to when I'm feeling kind of down, but I want
Okay.
to keep going. I love Tiger Army. I love their song Pain. It's kind of like um psychobilly rock. I totally
That
did
Okay.
that.
I've never heard of that.
Totally did. Yeah, you're gonna have to look it up, Tiger Army. You're welcome. The lead singer, Nick 13, he has a solo act where it's like old time country music. So I saw him in ACL one time. Super awesome. Dresses in full on old timey 50s
Oh,
Oh
that is
wow.
phenomenal.
country rock
And his last
outfits.
name is 13.
I was
Hmm
just thinking the same thing.
Like that's
Nick
pretty
13.
cool.
That's
You know,
correct.
like
That is really
How does
he's
he
cool.
giving
spell
him
it? Does he spell it out, or does he put a 1 and a 3, or is it
Oh,
Roman numerals?
it's pretty much all one word. NICK 13.
Ah, interesting.
oh,
That's
okay.
interesting.
Well, you
Sure.
gotta have a catchy name if you're gonna have like
I
a
mean, if you got to have something, you know.
you gotta have something. Yes.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't, um, what I would used to also listen to, because I'm really a punk metal head, but I like all kinds of music. I really do. But they have another song that I would consider a power song. I don't have one in particular, but I would be driving to work. Um, Back when I was a full-time counselor, because you show up like real early. I have to be there by 8. Now I don't wake up until 8. But I'd be driving there like tired as hell and just be like, oh, here's another 8 to
Yeah.
5 plus, because I'd stay later. They have a song, FML.
Mm,
No. That's in my head. FML was in my head. It's FTW was the song. So it
Okay.
was just this chorus over and over and over again. And I drive like, yeah, yeah.
That was your caffeine in the morning, pretty much.
uh,
That's what
I
amps
can
you
already
up.
picture you in your car at a stoplight, like just
Yeah.
jamming out to that.
FTW, you know, running red lights and shit, you know. So that's just
Getting
like,
out of the way, or
yeah.
somebody's coming in front of me because I do have a little bit of, I try not to because I'm ordinarily pretty calm, ordinarily,
Okay.
at least on the surface.
Until you
Underneath,
listen to
I'm like the little,
FTW, and then it's like, you know,
Just
the
getting
throw
road
nervous.
everything
rage
out.
comes out.
Yeah. She's driving and coloring at the same time. Like I'm I'm rolling the dice. She's running
No,
with
it's,
scissors.
well,
Like, you know, that's how it happens, right?
oh, dude, I used to get in trouble running with scissors when I was a kid, but that's a whole separate story. That's a
That's a
ghost
whole new
story.
episode.
That's a ghost story. So
Oh,
that's a
I
whole
know
separate
we're
episode.
running short on time, and I just this episode has made me really like really think about how the mind does work, because you're sitting here talking to us and I'm thinking about songs where, or smells, or, you know, feels, you know, like touch. If I
Mhm.
was to touch something, you know, that is granular or whatever, like where would it take me to? You know, what time
Yeah.
of, you know, what time of, speaking of, like walking into, you work at UTRGV, so walking into the field house, there's a particular
Oh,
smell
Yeah.
that is still there after, you know, I played 27 years ago,
I
right?
believe it's sweat.
No, it just has a different, it's not sweat. It just has a smell of like the wood
Yeah.
and the
It.
material that's in
Yeah.
there. Like it just has a
Cleaning
certain,
products
the
and
brick,
sweat.
cleaning products, yeah.
Yep.
But what's crazy is that my dad, who grew up in Far, used to play pickup games. They would sneak into UTRGV gym when it was Pan Am, and they would play pickup games. And when I was playing for Pan Am, my dad would obviously come to watch some of my games. And he once told me, he was like, the gym still smells the same.
That's crazy.
And this is when he was born in 50. So this was around 60, 64, 65 when he was playing pickup games and running the streets of Far, right? And
Hmm
hopping trains to go to Edinburgh to go play pickup games, right? And so it's crazy to me now when I go into that gym. not only do I think about all the games I played there and all the competitions and all the practices where I felt like I wanted to throw up,
Mhm.
but I also think of my dad because I had
Yeah,
that connection with him.
That is awesome.
that is
And it's a
actually a
good
cool
smell for you
Yeah,
then.
it's a
It's kind of
great
like you
smell.
walk in, inhale deeply, and you feel home. You feel like
Yeah,
home.
yeah.
And
So
smells can be awful, awful
it
memories
can
that
be
can come back, but
vinegar.
it can.
Yep. Don't
You
even
So,
don't like
start on the
vinegar?
vinegar story. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Is
I'm
that a ghost
interested,
story too?
Matt.
Because we
What's
should
it?
have
You
a
don't like
ghost
vinegar?
episode.
I cannot stand vinegar. I will vinegar and tequila. Like I will not.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
And
sure there's a reason to the tequila one.
probably
well,
to
what
no, it
is
was
the other one?
probably together.
Bacardi. Oh my god! If I smell Bacardi and Goldschlager, it's over. Like
Oh yeah,
nope,
Goldschlager. Reminds me
nope.
of high school.
Yak.
It was the start of and the end of really great times for me.
So
It was the
I know.
start and the end. That's funny.
Oh, I
Oh,
don't even know what I was gonna say.
oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Killer book, Kim. You are an amazing guest, and you're welcome back anytime you want to come back.
Yay.
And I will sit here and chop it up with you on the podcast anytime you want to come back. Like you're such an
Yes.
amazing guest.
Oh, thanks for
Yes.
having
Thank
me.
you.
Always. Thanks for having me.
All
Always
right.
fun.
Well, anything else, Chris? Till next
No,
time. Mind
no. I
splitters.
just wanted to thank Kim for taking the time to join us. Kim, I know we're running out of time, but do you want to plug some information? I know you have maybe an event coming up. Do you just want to give the listeners a quick little
Oh yeah.
rundown or some key points on it?
Well, my department, which is UTRGV's Rehabilitation Services and Counseling, has an addiction resource center lecture series.
Okay.
And the one that I have coming up is on May 17th. I say we because it's my department. We usually have one once a month. And mine is on neuroscience one-on-one. So, an introduction to neuroscience for counselors and rehabilitation professionals specifically, but anybody's invited.
Okay.
And it's free. They just have to show up. I will say as well as I do expressive arts with our local city, with the city of Edinburgh and their cultural arts department. So I do some guided meditations for free as well with a little bit of expressive art stuff, just kind of some therapeutic facilitation stuff with a little bit of chair yoga. Um, so that's coming up in Frida Fest. Well, I'll be there. So they just have to look out for it. So if anybody's interested in in more information about integrating the arts or for overall wellness or neuroscience, they are welcome to try to contact
Well,
me.
send us the
Yeah.
link, and then we'll share it on our social media so they can go where they need to go and get all that information. So yeah,
Absolutely.
we'll
Absolutely.
definitely share it before the 17th several times.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Of
All
course.
right.
It was nice talking to you guys.
Yes. Thank
Until
you,
next week,
everyone.
mind splitters.